Seeing that mountain terrifies me because it's one of the most dangerous volcanoes that are still active in the world. 3 million people live all around Mount Vesuvius, including the major metropolitan city of Naples. However, I hope history doesn't repeat itself, because back in 79 AD, a huge rumble was heard on this very city. This is not Naples. This is Pompeii. I'm Ariel with Urbanist, and let's walk around Pompeii and learn what happened on that day of August 24th, 79 AD. Right there, Mount Vesuvius is perfectly framed by this column, this arc that predates the Colosseum. This is the ancient Roman city of Pompeii, and that is Mount Vesuvius. Mount Vesuvius, as I mentioned, the largest active volcano in the entire world, or one of the largest active volcanoes in the entire world, but definitely the most dangerous. I'm Ariel with Urbanist, and let's explore today this ancient city. What happened that many years ago? Why did so many people die? When most volcanoes happen, a few dozen might pass away. Here, it was thousands. What happened? Well, today we're going to learn exactly why as we walk the Forum of Pompeii, see the temples that were dedicated to the pantheon of gods of the ancient Romans, and how that led directly as to why Pompeii got buried under ash, rock, debris, and extremely high temperatures. Let's walk around. Let me know where you're watching from. Hello, Kay. Hello, Ian. Always wanted to go to Pompeii. Well, today I'm going to take you around. Hello, Donald. Hello, Joanne. This is on your bucket list. Hello, Christine. Hello, Leanne. Hello, Lou. Hello, George. Welcome, everyone. Nice to see you here. Everything we're looking at in front of our very eyes, with one exception, that statue, and of course the people, everything else is perfectly well kept from 79 AD, because Pompeii was frozen in time. Frozen in time because so much ash fell on the city and everyone died in an instant. However, as we know, lava travels very, very slowly. So what made this city flash freeze? Now, when this happens, and it happens pretty rarely, it is an archaeologist's dream, because an archaeologist is able to see the city how it looked like 2,000 years ago. When they first came across the ancient ruins of Pompeii in the 1600s, they were utterly stunned, because they had no idea how big this was. They had no idea how many well-preserved buildings, columns, houses, frescoes, mosaics, forums survived. Hello, Shirley. Hello, Renee. Watching from New Hampshire. Welcome. Nice to see you here. So if you're watching, let your friends and family know about this broadcast. You can press that invite button on the bottom of the screen, and you can invite any friends and family that might be curious about Pompeii and its history. So Pompeii dates all the way back to 800 BC, to the Etruscans, the very mysterious Etruscans who spoke a language that is not related to any other language in the world. The Etruscans didn't last too long, because by the time Rome was established around 600-ish BC, the Latin tribes started taking over all these cities. And this city of Pompeii became Roman. Hello, Mark. Oh, you're watching from the opposite coast in Calabria. Welcome. And they keep finding things in the excavation. Yes, they keep finding things in the excavation. And there we have Mount Vesuvius. And I think it's perfect timing that there's a cloud lingering above Mount Vesuvius. Mount Vesuvius doesn't get too much rain, too much cloud coverage, because this is a pretty dry mountain. This is a pretty dry area of Italy. But imagine that cloud bursting 2 miles into the air. Hello, Renee, and hello, everyone. I love the opening shot with Mount Vesuvius framed by the arc. Oh, you're so welcome. You know me. I love making great shots with my live videos. So this statue is not original. It was installed by a Polish artist who passed away in the 1980s. But let's take a look at this temple, because it ties directly into our story. Hello, Seaman from Istanbul. Welcome. Istanbul is on my top of my list. So here is one of the streets of ancient Pompeii. And what we're looking at was a city that actual people lived in. It is estimated anywhere from 30,000 to 80,000 people lived in Pompeii and the surrounding areas. However, the population of Pompeii was higher on August 24th, 79 AD. For context, in 80 AD, the Colosseum was built. The emperor was Tacitus. Vespasian died just a few short months before. The transition of power was very peaceful, and the ancient Roman Empire was thriving. However, Pompeii was more fuller than usual because the gods. Here is the temple of Saturn and Apollo. Let's take a look inside. Leah, you recommend I go to Pizzeria Lombardi in Naples. Oh, cool. Thank you for the recommendation. I'll definitely look into it. I will be doing a pizza live also, so stay tuned for that later tonight or tomorrow. Stay tuned. Good morning, Lynn. Good morning, Bernadette. And good morning, everyone. Let me know where you're watching from. Here's one of the many temples you'll find in Pompeii. Another one you'll find is Jupiter. And Jupiter is close by, but I think this is one of the most impressive ones. However, on August 23rd, the day before we know what happens, it was Volcanalia. And Volcanalia was a huge festival dedicated to the god Vulcan. But who was Vulcan? Well, Vulcan was the son of Jupiter and Juno. Jupiter and Juno expected to have a son that was very, very handsome. However, when Vulcan was born and he was in the arms of Juno, she was terrified. She found the son utterly disgusting. I don't know why a mother would think that. However, they're gods. They're beyond human. They have their own unique way of living. So Juno, on the agreement with Jupiter, went over to one of the cliff sides, probably around Mount Olympus. It's not a real place, but you can think of it as kind of on the cliff sides of Greece. And Juno chucked Vulcan off into the sea. She thought she killed Vulcan for good. This ugly child she gave birth to, a disgrace for this beautiful race of gods. However, Vulcan fell down into the sea and was captured by a sea nymph. And this sea nymph, by the name of Listeria, she ended up adopting Vulcan and taking care of him. And she would constantly take Vulcan out into, she would constantly take Vulcan out up into the coast. And by the coast of where Vulcan was dropped and he was raised, there was a bunch of carbon coals. And these coals, Vulcan was utterly amazed by them. Because sometimes he would bump into a coal that was still lit up. Vulcan started collecting all these little coals, going back down to his underwater house, underwater realm, and started seeing what he can do with them. And the little teenage Vulcan started making necklaces and jewelry and chairs and a bunch of other things. Started forging every single day and night. He was utterly obsessed with it. He was in utter awe of what he can do with a simple little coal, with rock, with steel, with iron. He made this beautiful necklace for the sea nymph. And the sea nymph was utterly in awe. She raised this little child. He grew up to be a very amazing blacksmith. So Vulcan gave this necklace to Licitaria. And this story is very important because that was the festival that was happening right here. And it ties into why no one left. Or very few people did leave. So Vulcan, the Licitaria, took this necklace and she was invited to have a dinner with Juno. And as she was having dinner with Juno and the other gods, Juno asked, "Oh wow!" She was, her eyes glowed up, and she was like, "What is this? This beautiful necklace that you're using?" And Licitaria was shocked because she had no idea if she should say it, because she knew that Vulcan was abandoned by Juno, and Juno did not know that Vulcan was alive. And because Licitaria froze, Juno knew something was up. She told him Vulcan was alive and he made this beautiful necklace. And Juno was in a rage. She demanded to see Vulcan again. Vulcan refused, saying, "No, I'm not going to see this mother who abandoned me." So Vulcan, as a gift to say no, politely, made Juno a beautiful chair. And when Juno received this chair, she was delighted. Oh, it was like so beautiful, it was nicely adorned and everything. And she sat down on the chair. However, this was no normal chair because the chair ended up completely sealing her into the chair. Chains wrapped around her, and it was a trap. Juno was stuck to the chair. The god Jupiter demanded Vulcan to free her. And Vulcan said, "Okay, I'll free Juno, my mother who abandoned me off into the cliffside and threw me into the sea, left to die." And Vulcan said, "Okay, I'll let her go under one condition. If you give me the hand of marriage to Venus, the goddess of love, the goddess whose star shines at night, especially during the morning." Jupiter agreed. Vulcan and Venus got married. However, Venus, being the goddess of love, is not going to be entirely faithful to Vulcan, not entirely agreeable to Vulcan, who is a man really obsessed with his craft. He doesn't have the time to really party and revel in the hedonistic lifestyle of Venus. So they constantly got into feuds. And the legend has it that every time Vulcan would have a feud with Venus, he would go into the forge. The forges would be the mountains all around the Mediterranean. And in those forges, he would start making metalworks. Vulcan was not only the god of fire, he was also the god of blacksmithing and forging. And every time there was a rumble in the sky, an earthquake, or a volcano, that was the god Vulcan making beautiful ironwork. So, Volcanalia. August 23rd, 79 AD. A huge tremor was felt all around the city, and the ground started shaking. However, as everyone was celebrating the god Vulcan, something happened. Let's discuss that as we go into the streets of Pompeii. Hey! Welcome, Marlene. You're still in awe of these faraway, adventurous places you take to us. I would never have gotten to any of these places. Plus, I'm learning so much from you. Thank you so much. And Jackie, you're also going to wear your Urbanist t-shirt for the first time today. Amazing. I hope you enjoy that Urbanist t-shirt. And hello, Gretchen. I'm so glad you were able to come. And hello, Cindy. Welcome. So that day, a tremor shook Pompeii, August 23rd, 79 AD. Emperor Tacitus is the ruler. He was in correspondence with a young man who had very high ambitions, and his name was Pliny the Younger. Pliny the Younger had a father who wrote a massive encyclopedia of natural history. He was well known across the realm. So Pliny had very good blood and very good ancestry. Pliny the Elder was with Pliny the Younger across the Bay of Naples. They had a beautiful view of Pompeii. They weren't celebrating Volcanalia because, they were doing their work. Pliny the Elder was writing about natural history. Pliny the Younger was contemplating how he will become consul of Rome while writing to the Emperor Tacitus, who he really adored. A little plume of smoke pops out of Vesuvius that day. However, it's not really that big of an explosion. It's a very tiny one. And everyone who's celebrating here, you can imagine, put yourself in the shoes back in August 23rd, 79 AD, filled with people carrying huge pieces of metal, wearing the most ostentatious necklaces, because ancient Pompeii was one of the most wealthiest cities in ancient Rome. It was a trading city, and it was an open trade city. So anything and everything could come right into these shores. But wait a minute, we're about 2 miles away from the sea. Well, that will come into play later, because Pompeii used to be literally right next to the sea. Just about a 5-minute walk that way would be the sea. Pompeii is surrounded by 2 great mountain ranges. As the tremors happened, everyone was startled. But they were happy. They were happy because that was a good omen. Whenever there would be a tremor or a mountain might rumble, that was a good sign that Vulcan was blessing the festival in his honor. So everyone was happy. Everyone was cheering at this huge tremor that happened. Also, they didn't panic because about a decade earlier, in 62 AD, the ground also shook. There was a huge earthquake. They also saw it as a good sign from the god Vulcan. But also, they weren't too surprised because earthquakes happen all the time in this region of Italy. There's a fault line that goes up. This is one of the most earthquake-sensitive areas in all of Europe. However, that earthquake in 62 AD did not come from the sea. Those tremors in August 23rd, 79 AD did not also come from the sea. It came from Mount Vesuvius. And for context, Mount Vesuvius, I'll show you how big it was. Mount Vesuvius, you can put like this, right there. Like if you put your arm, you make a triangle this way, add a triangle that way, that was how huge Mount Vesuvius was. No one in Pompeii really knew that Mount Vesuvius was a volcano. There might have been rumors, but no one really knew because Mount Vesuvius was very green, filled with trees. There was a huge forest up there where some mysterious rituals took place for the cult of Dionysus. But it was a beautifully bucolic area. And the soil was very rich. It still continues to be rich to this day because it's volcanic soil. But at that time, they didn't have any name for volcanic soil. The reason that they didn't know this was a volcano because the last time it ever erupted was 1,800 years prior to 79 AD. It was a very long time ago. Just as long as us standing here talking about Pompeii. But today we have ancient ruins. Today we have science. Back then they didn't have that. So they had no clue. They only thought that the god Vulcan was happy. Welcome, Danielis. All right, let's zigzag a little bit more through this area. I'll show you a little bit more of the ruins. And welcome everyone. If you're watching for the first time, let me know where you're watching from. So imagine just us walking around wearing our ancient Roman regalia, donned in the best metalwork. The streets are filled with people drinking, reveling, and singing. But they were also celebrating for another reason. This was 79 AD. The Emperor Augustus was passed away about 60 years prior. The Emperor Augustus was just officially made into a god. He officially joined the pantheon of gods. Even though Emperor Augustus did kind of consider himself a god while he was living, this was the official celebration. So there were two major celebrations happening in Pompeii. The population could have swelled from 30,000 to maybe 80,000 people. The Colosseum that is in Pompeii that's still fully intact, it's a amphitheater, looks just like the Colosseum except it's buried underground. That has a capacity of 20,000 people. So Pompeii was very, very packed to the brim. The streets would not have any space. This would be party central on August 24th, 79 AD. I read that the volcano in the Bay of Naples is much bigger than Mount Vesuvius. Mount Vesuvius is the volcano at the Bay of Naples. Naples is around across the volcano. We're only a mere 30-minute train ride away from Naples. So this is the volcano that is in Naples. Mount Vesuvius currently is in the pathway of 3 million people.
These are pyroclastic volcanoes that explode, basically. They explode. And the first 18 hours of the eruption,
So a little bit about Pompeii. These are the streets where people lived in. However, Pompeii was a commercial town, so a lot of people lived right next to their stores. You can think of it as very similar to Trajan's Market, which we visited in ancient Rome. And the streets were actually on a lower level than the sidewalks. This is very common in modern day New York City and a few other cities around the world. And the reason they have these rocks over here is so you can cross the sidewalk, because they would constantly flood the streets with water in order to wash away the horse manure. Because this was a heavy trading town, so a lot of horses had to be brought in to constantly bring in the cargo, and they will always leave their remains. So these were stepping stones. Let's walk around. around the corner. Is it still active? Yes. Mount Vesuvius is still active. Last time it blew up was 1944, right during World War II. Actually destroyed a small little town nearby. So yes, it's still active. However, what happened in 1944 wasn't nowhere near as deadly as what happened in Pompeii. But what happened in Pompeii? All right, so 79 AD, August 24th, 8 a.m. A huge explosion is heard up into the air. The mountain just blew up. The man who we mentioned earlier, Pliny the Younger, was across the Bay of Naples with his father, Pliny the Elder, and they saw this explosion all the way from the Bay of Naples. And Pliny the Younger later wrote that it looked like a huge tree, those huge tall pine trees you see all around Rome, and you'll see them around here. They are like very small trunk, and then boom, they branch out. That's how he described the plume of smoke. Are the walls reconstructed? No, this is all original. This is all from 79 AD. It's all original. Here are some of the houses. All original. The floor is also from 79 AD. This is extremely well preserved. The frescoes you see there, they might be erased because they're now exposed to the elements. They're original. The best frescoes you can see is in the Villa of Mysteries. So here you can just imagine people selling their furs, metal work, necklaces, and they're living right next to these places. We know the names of some of these places. A man called Adriano just lived right across the corner over there. We found a portrait of Adriano with his wife.
The marbles and the jewels, an exception that one that are exposed into the Archaeological Museum of Naples, they are deciding to keep the modern stage till the forum and also
A huge plume of smoke covers all of Mount Vesuvius. People are scared. They have no idea what's happening. They know of volcanoes, but this is by far the only one they've ever seen. I never seen a volcano. Most people who are alive today has never seen a volcano. They're rare for the common human experience. So they have no clue what's happening. They think it's the god Vulcan, but they're worried it might be something much worse. So they're looking at this huge plume of smoke going up and up and up. For context, that huge plume of smoke is the equivalent of 3 to 4 nuclear bombs thrown in Hiroshima. There's a lot more power in that mountain. Because currently, right now, there's about 1,000 atomic bombs worth of energy stored within the walls of Mount Vesuvius. So what do the people do? Well, they think he'll just pass. So ash starts falling around the city, but it's not too bad because it's pumice. Pumice is a very soft rock. People use it nowadays to exfoliate their skin. It's the only rock that really floats. So pumice was falling. However, it kept on falling. By 3 p.m., the sky was completely dark to the brim. They couldn't see anything. People were worried. Pliny the Elder, across the Bay of Naples, received a letter from one of the aristocratic women he knew that lived close to the sea. She asked for help. She had no idea whether she should leave or not. Pliny the Younger is concerned, and he describes the scene as seeing the darkest sky he's ever seen in his entire life. It's almost as night led a huge shadow on that one area around Pompeii, Herculaneum, and the area around Mount Vesuvius. Pliny the Elder goes across the bay. He takes a ship with the Roman Navy. The Roman Navy were stationed there, and he was working with them. They were taking him around the Mediterranean as he studied natural history. He, again, was one of the most recognized and most privileged and also rich scientist of his time, or proto-scientist. Pliny the Elder goes on these Roman Navy ships. And he convinces the Roman Navy ships to start sailing towards Pompeii. This is very unprecedented because back in that time, the Roman Navy is used to killing. To be 100% honest, that's what they do. They go to war. They're not used to saving people. And this is actually one of the very first instances that the Navy was used to actively make a rescue mission. Pliny the Elder is going across the Bay of Naples. However, Pliny the Younger, still at the villa across the Bay of Naples, see that the seas are getting rough because more and more pumice stone starts falling. The thing is, pumice stone was falling at such a higher rate that it's a light stone if one falls on your head. But if you have 10,000 of them falling on your head, if you have 10,000, 100,000 falling on your house, the roofs start collapsing down. People start putting pillows above their head in order to stop the pumice from hitting their heads. It wasn't a good idea because another explosion went up. This time it sent flying, fiery debris to the city of Pompeii. That fiery debris started putting houses on fire, started putting the pillows on people's heads on fire. People were already panicking. The night was completely dark. It was pitch black. It was getting smoky. It was getting hazy. They couldn't see anything. There was zero visibility. However, this has happened before. Recently, it happened in Guatemala. There was a massive volcano that happened. It happened in Mount Helena back in the early 1990s. It's happened in Ipocatepetl, it's a hard word to pronounce, in Mexico. All those instances, there was only anywhere from 20 to maybe 200 deaths. Guatemala was a particularly heavy one, and it only had about 200 deaths. The reason for volcanoes being such a low death toll is, one, not too many people live around it, but two, is that lava moves very slowly. So the issue wasn't lava flowing down from Mount Vesuvius. Why did so many people die? Well, this is the strange thing. Let's look at how they died. Just across the forum, right at the plastered dead bodies of the Pompeii residents. The very interesting thing is that they died frozen. Not frozen in terms of temperature, but literally they are just kind of stunned. Their bodies are all convulsed, all in different directions. Same thing with all the animals, the horses, and all the other animals found. All the bodies are petrified. They're petrified, but why? If lava moves so slow, how did they get so petrified? That is an actual person who survived Pompeii.
And the last pass is another
You can still see their face. You can still see the expression that they had in those final moments. However, in those very final moments, they were completely out of air. They had nothing to breathe. They were suffering from extremely high heat. So Mount Etna is still kind of fuming, so it's active and actually still erupting, but very, very slowly. Mount Etna is nowhere near as big as Mount Vesuvius. Mount Vesuvius is maybe 50 times larger than Mount Etna in terms of power. Here is a small child. Now, how did they get these casts? Well, they were mostly bone. However, in the 1800s, a scientist, I think he was from Germany, he found a way to inject plaster, calls it Paris plaster. And that plaster would fill up the bones and actually get how they look like without destroying the shape that they were found in. Denalias, they probably died suffocated, or many did from all the smoke. So you would think so. But that's partly the answer. That's a very good guess, and that gets pretty damn accurate. However, if there was so much smoke filling up Pompeii, which has happened before in, say, wildfires in California, that unfortunately has ravaged California for the past year, people still escape. The death tolls at wildfires still end up being many dozens, but not into the thousands. Also, they knew they had to escape. And many did. Many were starting to walk away from the volcano. The thing is, this wouldn't normally have been an issue because the winds in this area of Pompeii always tend to flow south, so away from Mount Vesuvius. That's why this area tends to be a little bit drier, and then the area used to be a little bit more greener. But that day, the winds were flowing north, right towards Pompeii. And right at nighttime, another explosion went up. This one was much larger, farther and farther up into the sky. The entire top of the mountain collapsed on itself. And because it collapsed in on itself, a huge plume of smoke started going down the mountain. Started dispersing because the winds were blowing north rather than south. So this huge plume of smoke was roaring down the mountain towards Pompeii and Herculaneum nearby. This wasn't your ordinary smoke. This was an avalanche of extremely hot smoke that was calculated to be around 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Also, the smoke is extremely thick and filled with heavy debris, a bunch of particulates in the air. And it also moves anywhere from 50 miles per hour to 100 miles per hour. That day, it might have been moving about 60 miles per hour, roaring down. Put yourself in the shoes of a Pompeian. 60 miles per hour is way faster than anything they see. There's no horse that moves that fast. And there's not really there's no vehicles or ships that move that fast. 60 miles per hour is extremely quickly. And that huge avalanche of smoke was coming right towards Pompeii. The thing is with that smoke, it's called a pyroclastic flow. And these types of volcanoes are rare. The last time it happened was in Guatemala a few decades ago, but that luckily wasn't in the path of people. of too many people. A few hundred died, but wasn't thousands. Here, there was a huge city right in its path. A huge city filled with revelers from the two huge festivals that were happening, Volcano and the festival honoring Augustus. People had no way out. Pliny the Elder was towards the bay trying to get on shore, but as the pyroclastic flow went through the city of Pompeii, people completely lost all air. If you were right in the middle of the center of that flow, you would be burned alive as well. That's why you would be petrified. There would be no way you can move, and every single body that was found inching towards the ground. Their hands were clawed on the ground. And people were wondering why they were clawed to the ground. Were they trying to crawl away? No, they weren't. They were burnt alive. And that is a normal reaction whenever you have high heat. It's a normal convulsion. Pliny the Elder tried to get on shore to the city of Pompeii. It was too late. And the smoke didn't reach him, so he wasn't luckily burned alive. However, he suffocated. Pliny the Elder had very bad lungs, and Pliny the Younger said about that many years later. So Pliny the Elder collapsed on the bay, trying to come in with the Roman navy to save the people. He didn't manage to save anyone. The Roman navy maybe saved a few and went back. And sorry, there's a fly that's following me. I don't know why. And went back to the Bay of Naples, and they brought back the story of what happened to the elder, to the younger. And Pliny the Younger found out about the death of his father, and he ended up writing about it many decades later. One of the very few direct accounts of what happened to the city of Pompeii. People were baked to death. The city, frozen in time because of the extreme high heat and the massive amount of debris, buried Pompeii. Herculaneum was fully buried. Pompeii was buried maybe 75%. So there might have been a few ruins sticking out. And that's why today we have this site, super well preserved. However, in 1907, this exploded again. No pyroclastic flow, luckily. Second time, 1944, it exploded again, right during the end of the reign of Benito Mussolini, and right when World War II was at its highest peak. There was a Pliny eruption, was called a huge plume of smoke, but luckily no massive pyroclastic flow. However, this very mountain has 1,000 atomic bombs of power held within it, and 3 million people live all around. To be honest, that terrifies the hell out of me, and when I would not live in this area. Why do people live in this area? Well, because the land is extremely fertile. Volcanic soil is excellent for making great tomatoes. That goes to show that no matter how strong we are as humans, with our utmost technology, there's no way we can compete with the huge force of nature. And it shows that huge force of nature can't only kill us, it could erase us, bury us, to the point where we are forgotten in history. So when you look at history, don't think that maybe that is the full picture. We are very good scientists, right? And we're very good at excavating, but we don't know everything. There's way more to history that we haven't found out yet. Just like it took more than 1,600 years to find this site. Who knows what else is lurking underneath the ground here in Europe and all across the world. If you enjoyed this story, let me know. thank you so much for listening. I'm going to show you a little bit more about this beautiful site of Pompeii. Beautiful now, sad story though. So if you enjoyed this story, let me know, press the heart button, and let me show you a little bit more of Pompeii, the ruins of Pompeii, ruins of Pompeii. On the ground, there are directions to certain houses. Do you see the imprints on the corners of the streets? Yes, I'll show you. And they had the odds against them. They did. Excuse me. Hello, Nick. And Kathy, I'm so glad you love the broadcast. So the Villa of Mysteries has no service whatsoever. However, I did shoot a recorded video, and you'll be seeing that later tonight. Stay tuned. George, let me show you a little bit more of this area. I'm so happy everyone enjoyed it. Thank you so much for pressing that heart button. If you want to see more videos, click follow. Press follow. If you want to see bonus 360 videos, you can become a supporter by pressing the Become a Supporter button down there or the link in the description. My book recommendation for this tour is Pompeii by Mary Beard. I'll be putting the link in the comments as well. And stay tuned for a bonus video later tonight of the Villa of Mysteries. Here is the Basilica, which is kind of like the law house of Pompeii. Basilica was a word, it was a secular word before it ever became associated with the Christian religion. No, there's more, Irene. George posted some great articles on finding gladiatorial helmets. And according to some of the findings, there was a gladiatorial battle happening during that day of August 24th, interrupted by the huge explosion. Beautiful mountain regions all around Naples. This is my first time in Naples. I'm so excited to show you more of Naples later today. And great, the crowd was not too bad today. Yeah, it's good. The crowd wasn't too bad today. And there was a whole lot of tour groups happening here all the time. So this is an entire city. It'll take you quite a while to explore everything. I'm only showing you a tiny little fraction of it, and you're going to see a little more fraction of it. One of the more higher end villas that was on the outskirts of the city. But otherwise, this is extremely huge site. Here we get to see a house and how it looked like. George, yes, I'll be going tomorrow during the morning. Stay tuned. Probably 11 a.m. At 3 p.m. I'll be doing another video on Naples. This was Mysteries of the Eternal City, episode 9. Unfortunately, this city, unlike Rome, wasn't eternal. Wow. It's crazy to think how much of these things survived. And tomorrow at the Archaeological Museum, we're going to see more of these remnants, including frescoes. And one of the most impressive frescoes of Alexander the Great. Michael, you can watch the replay, don't worry. So the volcano filled up the ocean. Oh, Gretchen, oh, thank you for reminding me. So what happened with Pompeii being the city by the sea, the beautiful city by the sea, the seaside trading town, like New York is, or was when it was originally built? The sea is pretty far away. Look at that. That's where the bay is. By the time the volcano finished its wrath on the city of Pompeii, lava kept flowing out and out and out into the bay. More than 2 miles of land became new at that era. And while that was happening, Pliny the Younger luckily lived a very long life. He ended up getting the good graces of Emperor Trajan and became consul of Rome. Later in his life, he also wrote in great detail a letter to one of his colleagues about what transpired this day. And that's how we know what happened in the city of Pompeii back in August 24th, 79 AD. This brings me to the end of this broadcast. Stay tuned for a video later tonight about the Villa of Mysteries. And stay tuned tomorrow for a few videos on Naples, pizza, museum, and also a tour of the city itself. Thank you everyone so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And if you are a governmental official of Naples, I highly recommend to try to make up a evacuation plan. I think that might be the smartest thing to do. Let's not repeat history. Keep being awesome and always keep on exploring. Arrivederci, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye, and see you later.